And one of the senators from Idaho was very, very prominent in saying no. I've forgotten his name now.
What year?
Bora.
Oh,
right.
yes.
Yeah. Right. He was very prominent in opposing the League of Nations. So the U.S. Senate said, no, we never got involved in it. And it was at that point that House and his British counterparts started organizations for their respective countries to promote the idea of world government. The United States, we had the Council on Foreign Relations. England had the Royal Institute for International Affairs. And that's where you go to find the people who are undoing our country. The leaders of the Federal Reserve for many years have all been members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Presidents, media people, foundation heads, college professors, right across the board. A mere 4,400 people in our country, 305 million? That's not very many. It's who they are and where they are that makes the difference. Council on Foreign Relations. So we tell people, if you want to know what's really happening to your country, you got to find out about the Council on Foreign Relations.
You know, it's just eerie, some of the things you describe and how it seems as if history's repeating itself. And of all places in the United States where we've watched the fall of communism and we've watched so many things, and it's as if watching those things happen, now we're experiencing them. When we get back from the break, I'd like to pursue that a little bit further and the direction that we're going. I'm Elizabeth Allan Hodge. The program is Legislative Watch. Welcome back to Legislative Watch. I'm Elizabeth Allan Hodge, and with me in the studio today is John McManus, publisher of The New American, president of the John Birch Society, and an expert on the topic of the U.S. Constitution and certainly on the Federal Reserve. From what you've told us today, it's been a real educational experience to have you here. We were talking about inflation. You were talking about the two aspects of inflation, and we were also talking about the irony of how the United States has always kind of been like the beacon shining brightly, representing all that's good, all that's free, and really insisting on the self-reliance of man. We've seen all of these socialist, communist, fascist countries, and we've watched as one is toppled after another, and
we're duplicating it.
Now, we're leaning in that direction. Yes. Why is that, John?
Well, it's because of a conspiracy. I mean, you're not supposed to use the word. I use it all the time. In fact, I even quote David Rockefeller in his book. He wrote a book in 2003 called Memoirs. It's kind of like a biography. Mm-hmm. And he talked about the fact that there are people who accuse him and his family of conspiring to build a one-world system. And he said right in his own book, if that's the charge, I stand guilty and I'm proud of it.
Oh my.
He said that in his own book. Well, let's talk about the Constitution for a minute. What does the Constitution of the United States say regarding money? Article 1, Section 8. Congress shall have the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and set a standard of weights and measures. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, what does it mean? Well, Congress shall have power to coin money. How do you coin money? You start a mint. They started a mint, 1792. Okay? Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof. How'd they regulate the value? They said, well, the mint will put out 1 ounce coins, half-ounce coins, 10th-ounce coins, right? And a foreign coin. The coinage in our country back at the time of the War for Independence, Spanish doubloons, pieces of 8, other foreign coinage. And so the Congress of the United States said, well, this Spanish coin and this coin and so on, these are worth so much toward an ounce of silver or an ounce of gold.
Okay.
Right? Now, that spurred commerce. People then knew they could rely on it. And not only that, set a standard of weights and measures. This shall be 3 feet in a yard, and 5,280 feet in a mile, and 16 ounces in a pound. So we had a standard. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all the power that was given to the Congress of the United States in the Constitution. That's it. Was there any power to start a bank? No. Was there any power to give power to create a Federal Reserve? Absolutely not. And all of our legislators go to Washington. The president, the Supreme Court, all the congressmen, all the senators, They all swear an oath, solemn oath, to abide by the Constitution.
Oh, I know that.
And then they put it in the bottom drawer and they go and do whatever they please.
Exactly.
Well, who do we blame for that? Ourselves.
That's
For
right.
allowing it to happen. Now, there's one other place in the Constitution where money is discussed, and that's regarding the states. So another article in the Constitution says, no state shall coin money.
That's right.
Okay, so the people who went there from the different states were willing to say, we won't coin money. No state shall emit bills of credit. That's the term for paper money. And no state shall make anything other than gold or silver a payment for debts. Now, it's remarkable that those men who were jealous guardians of state power, they didn't want a central government except for very few purposes, were willingly to submit to restrictions upon themselves. It's a tribute to the far-seeing and the generosity of the people who formed our Constitution. They gave up some power in order to have a better country.
Right.
All right. And that's all that the Constitution says about money. No bank, no Federal Reserve, none of this manipulation that's going on, no inflation. Right? What was to be is private coinage. Let people start coins. Let them put out 1 ounce coins and silver coins and so forth. But they passed, the federal government passed legal tender law. And the legal tender law says only the Federal Reserve note is legitimate currency. That's tyranny. That's
Another
tyranny.
example of legislation that becomes legal, although it's unconstitutional.
Well, what's legal is not always moral.
Right, right. Now,
That's your point.
in your dollars and cents, you talk about a National Geographic gentleman by the name of Peter White, who wrote a story in 1993 in National Geographic. Would you relate that?
You know, I like to say sometimes you get help from a place you didn't expect it, right? Well, Peter White is an associate editor of the National Geographic magazine. In 1993, he wrote an article called The Power of Money. And he went around the world and he talked about how money was being created in different places in the world. And he ended up at the Federal Reserve. Right? As he got there, he had just learned that the Federal Reserve had purchased $100 million worth of government securities. So he asked the federal official, where'd you get the money? And the Federal Reserve official says, we created it. It's money that didn't exist before. Oh, is there any limit on that, says Peter White. And the man says, no limit, only the good judgment and conscience of responsible Federal Reserve people. And I go,
all right.
I always say to my audiences, sleep well, everybody.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So then he asked him, said, well, where'd you get that authority? And the Federal Reserve official actually referred to the constitutional provision that I just mentioned. He said, well, it's the Federal Reserve Act and the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, that says Congress shall have the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and so on, which is a bald-faced, ridiculous lie. It doesn't say that they have the power to do that. You don't coin paper.
Right.
You coin metal. So I want private coinage. Now, I've run into people and they say, well, if you have private coinage, there might be somebody who will put out a coin that says it's 1 ounce of silver, but it's base metal, only a little bit of silver, and you defrauded them. All right? So I said, well, that's what you got a court system for. All right? Take them to court. So I say, yeah, it's possible that there would be some people defrauded. But if we continue with the Federal Reserve, everybody's
You want to talk about being defrauded.
Everybody's being defrauded. Right? I take my chances with private coinage.
So I take it you're for repealing the legal tender.
I'm repealing the legal tender laws. I want to see the abolition of the Federal Reserve. All right, now, not tomorrow. There's a bill in Congress right now, Article H.R. 833. And it's to do away with the Federal Reserve. But it says from 1 year from the passage of this thing, then the Federal Reserve goes out of business. In other words, we need a year to get the ducks in line. We need a year to get ready to be able to have no more Federal Reserve notes. But there's another aspect to this, and that is this. If you have private coinage, if you have decent money that is being circulated, lots of people putting out silver coins, gold coins, and so forth, then the old principle that good money drives out bad, the Federal Reserve note will be repudiated.